The American Democracy Project is an initiative started by the American Association of State Colleges and Universities at four-year public regional colleges to engage campuses in civic conversations and to get students particularly civically engaged. And so that civic engagement certainly includes voting, but it also includes all forms of public service and community service and service learning and things like that. We just want students to understand their role in their government and their society. So the American Democracy Project at UCM hosted a lot of different events. We hosted things where students were just able to stop at a table and register to vote and learn about how to get an absentee ballot. We had more active programs, including a keynote speaker who came in and talked about the history of the country and issues of race and gender that the country has experienced and what that means for modern day society. We had some fun events that also allowed for political discussion. We had a paint and sip where students were painting in response to different political questions and then expressing their attitudes and beliefs on those questions. We also had a panel of faculty members who talked about free speech and democracy, not only in the United States, but around the world, and gave kind of a comparative look at those things. So lots of different ways for students to engage in ideas of democracy and voting and free expression.
The big takeaway for this week's events should be that everyone should have an equitable approach to the Constitution. So that's been the big theme for this week, is trying to plan events that showcase that. So like today's we had a paint and sip event, which in theory just sounds like a fun event. You get to know each other, things like that. But in reality, when you were there, I mean, we got to think about voting topics. We got to think about what we want to see change in the U.S. And we gave 3 different organizations and departments an opportunity to get out and get to know students and get them invested in them. So I would say the big takeaway is just knowing that there are people on this campus that care about giving all students representation that actually seems and looks like them and has an investment in them and what they care about, and not just trying to do that for the dominant society that we serve on a predominantly white campus. Or like the redlining exhibit on Tuesday, where we talked about the history of racial segregation in the housing market, and being able to get someone from Johnson County, which is so far away over in Kansas, to drive all the way out here just to make sure college students had the opportunity to hear about it. It was just a really great opportunity. So I'd say the most rewarding part is just making sure that like students know that departments are taking an investment in them and they're wanting to make sure they have all the opportunities available to them.
In the 1960s, when attempts were made to undo this system through civil rights legislation and other things, folks who were impacted by it were still rarely at the table. So as we move forward thinking about a more equitable, more democratic society, perhaps more people at the table, hearing more voices and their needs, can lead us to something that looks a little different in the future.
There are a lot of big decisions that need to be made that include all of us. And it's really good for us to get our voices out there to make sure that we're heard and can contribute to those decisions.
So I think it's really important for universities to have events like the American Democracy Project, so we can have guest speakers, be able to have informational events like when to register to vote, how to do absentee ballots, because it's a lot of things that we don't just know on our own. It's something that people need to be taught.
I mean, civic awareness is a prerequisite for a healthy democracy. Having a well-informed citizenry is important for democracy to thrive. And getting involved, obviously voting, but not just voting, really participating in the way that decisions are made from the local level on up to the federal level. So attending school board meetings, attending city council meetings, writing to legislators, finding a trustworthy news source to get your information from, and just being aware. Those are all crucial steps.
We love when students come to the American Democracy Project to learn more about their government and the systems, and we're happy to help them. But students can also choose to learn about these things from their local election authorities. In most of the counties, that would be their county clerk, but there's also boards of election, and they have websites which will help students understand how they get registered to vote, how they can request an absentee ballot. Also, the Secretary of State of Missouri has a very informative website that will help students understand how they can get registered to vote, how they can request an absentee ballot, and who's on the ballot and where they can learn more.
The American Democracy Project gives students an opportunity to get involved but not have to affiliate with a party, so they can get that knowledge and get involved with people who care about it without having to be scared of asking the wrong questions or hurting other people's feelings. So I'd say that's the big importance of it.
We would welcome anyone who is interested in getting involved with the American Democracy Project to contact myself or to contact the student coordinator. And we have a ADP email address, so it makes it real easy to get hold of us. It's just adp@ucmo.edu. And then after a conversation with them, we'll figure out what is the best way for them to get engaged, because it kind of depends on what they want to get out of that.